on our own terms here. We're here with PhD,
No.
physicist, Doctor extraordinaire John Charles, who has taught at many a school, educated many a young man and woman, was unfortunate enough to teach me, fortunate enough to teach my wife, and he's how would you describe yourself? You teach physics. I know you got a PhD in a ton of shit.
I do not have a PhD.
He's going to be very humble now.
He's got,
it's the smartest guy I knew in my phone book.
He's got the name part right. That's about it. The name is John Charles. That is I.
So, since we started this, it's a gun podcast, believe it or not. We usually never talk about guns.
Very rarely.
Very rarely. But we have this strange fascination with extraterrestrial life, among other things.
Take me to your leader, man.
But that's probably the main one for me. And I've gone back and forth so much on it that I wanted to talk to somebody in the physics realm that could kind of untangle some of the questions I have.
I'm in the physics periphery, my brother.
So you said you saw part of the...
Same difference.
You saw a part of the Bob Lazar thing.
I saw.
Do you have any interest in that, being that...
No, indeed.
No?
No.
Well, there goes the podcast.
Yeah.
Why
Good
not?
night.
Do you not? Because you don't think that it is plausible?
I don't think it's plausible, no. Just listening to it, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. It was interesting.
You don't think it's plausible that he worked there, or you don't think it's
All right,
plausible?
so hold on.
No, I believe he.
So for the people that
he
don't know,
worked there.
For the people that don't know,
That would be too easily
in the early
refuted.
to mid '80s, Bob Lazar claims that he worked at
S4.
an area called S4, which is before Area 51 was in pop culture, and he got the short story, or the very, very long story shortened, was that he applied for a job, wanted to get back into the scientific community after working at Los Alamos National Labs, which they do nuclear testing, all sorts of physics related things like that, out there in the Nevada desert.
New Mexico.
In New Mexico, right. And then he went to an area in the Nevada desert called, he called it Area S4. And this is way before people knew about Area 51. He worked there for about 6 months, and then they kind of cut him loose. He didn't know why. Turns out they were monitoring his phones, and his wife was having an affair. So they thought that because he was working with all this top secret stuff that we'll get into in a minute, not only did you have to have no connection to foreign dictators or foreign, militaries and not be a crazy person, but you also had to have a stable home life. So when they found that out, they cast him off this project where he claims to work with UFOs, and he got really scared, being that his claim that he worked with all of these on these alien spaceships and their propulsion systems, and he thought that they were going to kill him. So he took a bunch of his friends out there, and again, this is the late 80s, so they had shit technology. They have video, but it's not any good. It looks like a laser pointer on a wall, pretty much, in today's standards. But he took a bunch of people out there on many different occasions. They all say the same thing, that they saw these strange things in the sky. He knew when to bring them out there, because as he worked there, he knew the test schedules for these discs that he was working on, these alien discs. And I believe him. I
do believe him.
So he said,
I think he's full of shit.
No,
well,
he's
look.
not. No, I believe him.
We have a tie.
I used to think that I was very good at telling if people are lying or not. And as I've gotten older, I realized that people are fucking crazy. A lot of people are crazy.
I'm crazy.
But the more this time's gone on, this guy has somewhat been redeemed as more of the things he said back in the 80s and 90s have slowly become true.
Like what?
One of them is this element that he said he worked with, which was the propulsion. So he was working on the propulsion system.
Reverse engineering it.
Right. They wanted him to reverse engineer the propulsion system of an alien craft.
Sure.
He said it was about the hemisphere about the size of a basketball.
Yes.
And they only allowed him in the spaceship once because of where the propulsion system sat in relationship to the craft may be crucial on how it operated. So they let him in there. He said the Testers Models Corporation, which is really cool. I wanted to buy one. Paul, if you go on Amazon, I want to add to cart so we can have one in here. But he did a whole thing. He figured it was about 50 feet in diameter. And at the tallest part of the dome, it looked like a regular, what most people would think of a that standard UFO look.
Sure.
He said at the very center of it, he could kind of stand up. So he figured it was made for something about half his size, about 3 feet tall. Something very small. But the way he described it, he's either super crazy, but very smart. Because, when he was like 20, he put a jet engine in his Honda.
Yes.
And that was one of the ways that he kind of finagled himself into this community that he then later got a job working on propulsion at this site.
The bullshit is in the tiny details.
It always is.
It's all, you're right.
Always is.
Yeah.
But the most of the details have come together over the years to convince me, who I've leaned farther away from believing all that stuff, to I think that this guy might be telling the truth.
Where is the stuff now?
So the last parts of his story were that they bring him in this room.
We are not privy to where they keep these
Right.
things.
Oh, that's right.
If I had one in the back,
I was gonna say we gotta.
we'd shoot that fucker. And see what happens. But he said that day one they
We
just wrote him
definitely
with paperwork. That's day 2, 3, whatever. They finally bring him into this hangar, and it's in a remote area of the desert. He's pumped to be there because he's a scientist, and he sees the craft that he's going to be working on, and it's sitting upright on its side and has a little American flag sticker on the side of it. And he thought, this is just an advanced fighter that we built, and all these UFO people are fucking crazy. This is just an advanced fighter, and that's what I'm going to be working on. And so he goes in this room, and all they tell him is to reverse engineer the propulsion system. And that, he said, was the moment that changed his entire life, which was that the way he describes it is so cool, because he said it works almost as like they could turn it on and off by it was a hemisphere about the size of a basketball, and when they took the top off, it would stop producing this anti-gravity, and when they would put it on, it would be like an electrical load, and that would turn it on. And when you turned it on, you couldn't go anywhere near it.
That's how they took it off, because when they put it on, they turned it on, and then they could go take it off.
Well,
because they couldn't touch it.
Well, I think there was a way to. Now the way that's.
He said the guy he replaced killed him.
Oh, that's why he couldn't touch it.
The way the guy he replaced, supposedly there was a unannounced.
You touch it.
I don't want to touch it. You touch it.
I'm not
There was
touching
an
it.
unannounced nuclear test in the Nevada desert, and that was because they tried to cut into this thing with some kind of advanced laser or something, and it blew up, and it was in the paper as an unannounced nuclear test, which they did all the time back in the late 80s in Nevada, which is true. They've done hundreds of nuclear tests out there.
So they blew this thing up, declared it to be an unannounced nuclear test.
Well, they didn't blow it up. It was just a result of trying to cut this
I understand. I'm still
Like
saying
a defense mechanism.
They blew it up because they were trying to do something else.
They were trying to cut into it,
Right.
for
And it released this massive amount of energy like a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, but nobody was injured.
No, it killed somebody, and
One-
that was who he was replacing.
So that was the only person in the vicinity of this operation.
Well, he doesn't know
Nuclear
that.
explosion.
Nuclear explosion.
Which was interesting because it does. I'm not saying it makes sense, but it does make sense that the metallurgy would be in a whole nother area of Area 51, miles away, with no contact with the people that worked on the propulsion system, that worked on how gravity's affected around the craft, that worked on what the seats in it were made out of, or if it was made out of metal or some kind of ceramic. They fragmented everybody that would research this thing into groups that weren't allowed to talk to one another, which would seem like something that the U.S. military might do. So nobody has the whole picture. Your job is just to see how this works and try to reverse engineer it for our use. And back in the 80s, I mean, they didn't know anything about any of this, and we still don't to this day. So they didn't really get anywhere. He worked there for about 6 months. But he's either very good at bullshit, or I think he worked there.
Former. I'll go with the former.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So there's no... Is it because of your physics knowledge that you think none of this is possible with...
It's because of my practical sensibility. It doesn't make sense. What doesn't make sense is the revelation as he is portraying it is still quiet. It's still secret.
Kind of.
But at this point,
well, do you know that the New York Times, the Pentagon, released a statement right after COVID started that they do have... Pull that up, Paul. Pull up Pentagon releases UFO info. They've released through the New York Times that they are in possession of something that was not created on this planet. Now that could mean it was a meteorite. It could mean, it could mean many things. But more of these stories are starting to come out. Like there's another one. Commander David Fravor is a big story that was a couple years ago. And he's been on a bunch of podcasts too, that he tracked this, they call it a Tic Tac UFO, and it was very similar to the way it operates from what he could see, that the way that Bob Lazar described how this thing operated that he worked on. It went from 80,000 feet to 50 feet above seawater in under a second. And he could see it with his eyes. They tracked it with radar, and they actually... So their cap point where they were going to go in this, he was a fighter pilot. So they were making rounds, I guess, off the coast of California. And their final destination point where they were going to go back to for this drill that they were doing is where the UFO went to as they were tracking it. So it's almost like saying, I know what you're doing. I even know where you're going. And I'll be there in a tenth of a second, and I'll see you there in 10 minutes from the time that after you get there. So there's a lot of these. That's it right there. So you see it. It's not emitting any energy, or it's not emitting any heat. And you see it for a second. They see it with their eyes, and then it zooms off screen at a rate of thousands and thousands of miles an hour. Almost to the point where you couldn't see it with the naked eye. But they tracked it for 5 or 10 minutes. Something else was underneath the water that they could see. They went back later, and that was gone as well.
It's still inexplicable. So to assign the inexplicable to something that is as solid as, okay, we've got some aliens that are invading our space, that's a stretch for me. First of all, it takes a lot of time. You cannot collect any meaningful amount of evidence. It's all speculation.
Well, that is something that he said, is that, while they were there, because he was asked, so for 6 months you did nothing. You didn't find anything. And he said, no, not really. All we could do was perform tests on this thing and see how it performed with these tests. And draw up minor conclusions, some of which may have been correct and some may have been wrong. But they said he said that the coolest thing to me, even if it's even if it's all bullshit, the coolest thing to me is the relationship to where I think we'll be in 100 years to the way he described it 30 years ago, which was that none of it made any sense. None of the objects in this craft were connected by any wires. They just had to be in the vicinity of one another for things to operate. Like there was no computer that they logged on to. There was no TVs. There was no furniture. There was no bathroom. There was no artwork on the walls. It was a craft that looked like something that we could make, except that it didn't have any. There was
no furniture.
Well, there was no nothing. It looked like almost you made something out of wax and then heated it to where it was all one uniform.
Did he mention anything about some sort of guidance mechanisms?
He said there was two things on the bottom that looked like trash cans, as he described them, that he thought may have documented its place in space.
He wasn't able to access it.
No, he only had, as he claims, hands-on experience with the propulsion system.
That he was able to explain or not explain.
He said that they knew that, and again, this is most of the stuff, he's going to say it better than I am. I'm just repeating pretty much what he said, but he said that they couldn't really come up with any answers to how this thing worked. All they could do was perform tests. He said that they dicked around with it enough to where they knew that there was a fuel source. They called it element 115, 115, which now has a place on the periodic chart. It's called Muscovium. And I didn't know this either, but Germany, just a few years ago, created a small amount of it, and it was radioactive, and it was only viable for, 1/100th of a second, which is nothing. I didn't know this, but like if you buy a Glock and it has night sights on it, that's it's helium, but it's a radioactive version. So like helium is a stable substance that doesn't emit radiation and it doesn't decay. It also has a bunch of subsections of helium. One is what's in night sights? Tritium mm-hmm. gas, and it is radioactive and it does decay. That's why they only last for 10 years or so. So they were coming up with that element 115, and it has a place on the chart now. Just 8 or 10 years ago, it was put on the periodic chart, and they called it Muscovium. And so more of the things that has claimed to be true have been shown to actually not be bullshit. And he said he worked at and then a bunch of other strange things, man. He said he worked at Los Alamos Labs. After he came out, they said no, he never worked here. He's crazy. Never seen him. And they dug up a few things from the paper, which is one of the things on the paper was that he put a jet engine in his Honda. So he's obviously a very smart guy. That's something that is definitely true. I mean, he's very, very, very smart guy when you hear him talk about elements, the periodic table, propulsion methods. He put a jet engine in his Honda and he drove it to work every day. And that was on the paper of, the town that they worked in. And it said Bob Lazar, physicist at Los Alamos Labs, so there's a bunch of things. He was in the phone book there, even though they said he never worked there. So there was some effort to whitewash his education and, some of the things he was saying. It's been proven that somebody, whether if it was just Los Alamos saying, look, I don't want any part of this crazy guy, we're going to just say he never worked here, which is possible. Or if it was a government entity.
I think they were trying to discredit him.
Well, they were definitely trying to discredit him. Everything that came out for 10 years after he came out and said this was all to discredit him. But as time's gone on, more and more of the things that he said to have been true have proven to be true. Like
I think it is true.
One of the things was he said, to get my ID badge every day, I had to put my hand on this thing. This is back in the 80s. And it's still to this day one of the best ways to identify who you are, because it measures the size, length, diameter, and thicknesses of the bones in your fingers. So you'd put your hand on it, it would scan your hand, and it could tell who you are, like a fingerprint would, but almost even better. You know, like nobody's hands have the same bone size, density, space between, and your ID card would pop out. But these things would never ever work right. They would constantly break down, and so they found a guy with pictures in one of these things that said, yeah, I worked there, I worked on these things. So there's things that he definitely worked in that area, whether if it was
he knew secret stuff.
He definitely worked at Los Alamos, and he definitely worked at that subsection of Area 51. Now, does that mean that he took apart this flying saucer and saw aliens? No. But it does mean that some of his story is true, and there's been some effort to discredit him in some way. Now, do you have any thought on, like, maybe that element is just not here on this planet, but maybe it's very
or maybe it was
available.
discovered just as the periodic table came together.
Right.
Various elements were discovered at various times in the development of the periodic table. Scientists are constantly working on discovering elements. I mean, that's what they do.
But the main thing he was scared of is that somebody sooner or later is going to get a stable version of this, and when that happens, you know, it would be game over. In essence, you'd be able to create aircraft for your military that would be, you know, impervious to enemy fire, and you would be able to go from A to B instantaneously. You would be able to, you know, traverse the universe almost in an instant, because once you eliminate, you know, gravity and the space around it, you're able to manipulate in such a way that nothing has any effect on, you know, the vehicle or whatever you're wrapped in. Do you think that's
it sounds like
possible?
Sounds like science fiction to me.
Well, cell phones did too in the 1800s.
I don't know if it was science fiction. I don't know if the cell phones were science fiction as much. There's a difference between being able to impact, manipulate, affect laws versus just completely refuting them. Now, certainly we believe what we're able to prove at a certain point in time, or we believe what we're able to understand at a certain point in time, and then those things change because somebody's coming along and saying, no, that's not actually how it works. If we go all the way back, you know, Earth was flat, right? Okay.
There's still people today that think the Earth's flat.
Yeah. But once we start making observations about movement, astronomical observations and whatnot, then we realize, no, there's a curvature to this. There's something else going on.
Well, so it sounds like to me you don't even believe in the aliens. Do you believe in them at all?
No, I do not.
Okay.
You don't think in the whole entire universe there's anything like us that can traverse space or...
I don't think it's...
What about Drake's equation? Isn't that...
let me tell you.
That's it? We're the only thing?
So far. Because right now, there is no...
Do you know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is?
Yeah.
God damn it, you sound just like him, and he's the smartest motherfucker I've ever listened to.
Well, but I ain't smart.
But if you can't prove it, that's it.
Well, you can't deal with it if you can't prove it. Otherwise, you're just running around, running your mouth. if you can't prove it, I didn't say.
I don't
it like that.
believe that though.
No, I'm just.
I don't
I'm looking
believe
at him
that,
and
though.
just laughing because he's
Wouldn't you
getting.
think that
He's like,
would
God
be?
damn it!
I don't believe just because you can't
I
prove it.
expected that he would say this, which is why I wanted somebody to talk to that would not, just say, "Yeah, it sounds good." Everybody that has pushed back on the subject is usually very, very smart. Like I brought up Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's, an astrophysicist that doesn't believe at all that there's anything other than us because he can't prove that there's anything other than us. So there's no reason for him to entertain something that hasn't been proven by
What
science
ifs?
yet, that's not testable. But doesn't that doesn't make you sad at all?
Not at all. I don't even give it a second thought. I've heard about these UFOs even when as a kid.
Have you never seen anything?
Yeah, I see things all the time. I see ghosts.
Thank
What
you.
the hell do you think
Thank
about
you.
that?
I see
See,
ghosts.
that's my people.
That fucking came out
That's
of
my
left field.
people.
Yeah.
Where?
That's my people right
What do you
there.
mean?
Yeah, I see.
Wait. Hold on a
Apparitions.
second.
Thank
Hold on a
you.
second.
I
Back
love
up.
you.
Dead
so much.
people.
You don't believe
Yeah.
that there's other civilizations that can master physics in a way that we don't know how, but you believe in ghosts?
He sees them.
Yes,
He hasn't seen the aliens.
yes. You got that right, my
I
brother.
don't know what to make of this.
Oh.
So
I
what do you
love it.
see?
I don't know what I see. I mean, I can't tell you that I'm identifying what I see. Now, what do I see?
I love this.
Can it be part of my imagination? Can it be shadows? Can it be something that caught my periphery? Can it be that? I also believe that there is.
God, I love talking about this shit. I'm such a
Me
sucker
too.
because I believe all of it.
Oh,
I want
well.
all of it to be true.
It is.
I believe that we are. First of all, I believe that we are made in the image and likeness of God. So we have a human and a divine nature.
So what is God? You think it's a person
I think God is a being.
that you would meet one day?
Yes, looking forward to it.
He's running the simulation we're in.
But isn't that making it a human? Isn't that making something supernatural, giving it a human quality?
What, the being part?
Right.
No, because I haven't defined it.
He hasn't seen it.
I haven't defined it.
But-
If I say it's a person, then yes, that's what I'm doing. But saying it's a being, no, because I believe that God exists.
Well, we're not people once we pass away. We're just energy, And
Yeah.
energy can't be destroyed, correct?
Spirit.
No, it can't be
So-
destroyed.
It just moves on into something else.
So what do you think happens after we kick it?
I don't know, but what I believe is that, just like you were saying, the energy cannot be destroyed. People have certain skills and talents. I don't know that we are all able to access 100% of our skills and talents. That's what I don't believe that we can do. But the mere fact that I do believe that there is an afterlife, I believe that there is no destruction of energy. I believe, just as I would say,
You think you're conscious during it? After?
yeah, I'm conscious, yeah. I'm not talking about dreams.
No. After you die, you think it's a consciousness thing, or it's like your energy is then
No, I think you're
made
part of it.
into a plant or a star or
No. I think there
a
is
fart.
No. I think that we do have
Had some good farts. You need to
we have an
stop laughing.
essence. We have an essence, and we also have a physical presence. The essence is what we're going to be once our physical presence is.
But you don't think that
expires.
exists anywhere else in the galaxy?
I don't have any reason
It's
to think
ever
that.
expanding.
I have no experience, nothing telling me that
Nothing
is,
to prove it.
nothing to even suggest it, other than an
Well,
imagination.
Is that true? Because I think what's the galaxy? Look up. I think they said the galaxy is like 200 trillion years old or some shit, and the Earth is like 20 billion years old. So even if Elon Musk, who I love by the way, said that if it took civilization, because the sun's going to burn out in 100 million years or whatever, he said if it took civilization just 10% longer to evolve, then there would be no civilization before the universe collapsed in on itself. Our civilization.
So what is the relevance of the universe being around for so long?
That's a good question.
No, but you brought it up, and I think you.
Well, I think that if we, who are constantly killing each other and blowing ourselves up, we don't know what to do. You know, we're a terrible species in many ways. In many ways, we're not. There's huge. You can focus on massive acts of kindness and the way that you would like the human spirit and ingenuity and what's capable of a human person, what they're capable of in their best in their best parts. And then on the other side, I mean, there's constant war, that's why I think if I'm going to say that aliens exist, I think that's why they don't necessarily show themselves, is because it would create chaos. The stock market would tank. We would immediately turn on each other if we thought one of them was working with a certain country. There would be nuclear war. We'd probably attack, just like Columbus did to the indigenous peoples of the United States. Whenever a smarter, more advanced civilization comes across a less advanced civilization, it's always chaos and death and destruction.
But that's our perspective.
That's our perspective. But I think they would know that. Just like we are, we watch animals at the zoo. We study them for specific reasons.
So why wouldn't we be the most advanced?
It's possible. I just think, man, I think that's a human way to look at it. That we're
But we are human, and we don't have any other comparison.
Well, you're right.
So then I have a question. Going backwards, and I'm just speaking on a sense, on certain archaeological digs and finds and things like that. So we find different sites that they excavate, and they estimate them to be tens of thousands of years old, and they find certain things in these sites that clearly weren't around when the people that populated those sites existed, or
it's called OOP, out of place archaeology,
or they discover things that have been made that the people that lived in that time didn't possess the technology or the tools to make what they find. So how do you think that comes to be about?
I think it's I think the human brain is just a remarkable thing. I think we oftentimes underestimate how smart we really are.
You think we built
these digs, for instance, where they find carvings of dinosaurs, and dinosaurs didn't exist when man populated the earth. So how would they know what dinosaurs look like?
I really don't have an answer to the question. I mean, you've had dreams before.
Mm-hmm.
You've come up with stuff that you would say, what in the world was that dream all about?
But none of my dreams have ever turned into something that existed.
And maybe that's
millions of years ago.
And maybe that's because you didn't follow up on your dreams either.
Stupid.
Gosh,
Maybe.
Frank. Slacker.
Or
what about the whole thing about okay, so space is infinite.
Let me suggest one other thing.
Go ahead.
We also using a perspective based on our daily lifestyles. And our daily lifestyles pretty much do not give us an opportunity to do a whole lot of deep thought.
Well, and I compare it to also like things like back during World War II. Our military populated an island or took charge of an island. I forget exactly where it was. Came in and brought, equipment and medicines and things like that. And the indigenous people that lived there, we helped them. They dealt with disease, and they treated these people and brought them food and different things, different equipment that we had. And then when they left, these indigenous people built like mock-ups of the planes that they flew in and landed and brought all this equipment. And to a certain extent worshiped them, like we're trying to call them back and worship them as gods and things like that. So, and a lot of people have taken that example of what happened and said all this stuff they've discovered where they find things that like in paintings or in artwork, carvings and stuff like that resemble alien crafts or different things like that, to say, well, that's all they would, or different writings even in the Bible or in different literature or historical documents where they've said they rode in on a flaming chariot or different things like that, where that would be the only explanation people at the time would have of something like a craft of some kind or something like that has come down. They wouldn't know how to explain it other than things like that. Mm-hmm. So how do you explain that kind of stuff?
I don't have a clue.
I want to get back to this ghost thing.
Not a clue.
How much do you see them? Like how often?
How can you? I don't know how you can hold those two thoughts simultaneously.
Yeah, he's.
One is experience and one is not. I
mean,
but
what if people don't experience what you've experienced? Wouldn't that be something similar to what Bob Lazar has claimed to experience?
I'm not saying Bob Lazar didn't experience something. What I'm saying is that he is drawing a conclusion that this has something to do with alien life. That's what I'm saying. He has nothing to show that this is a result of alien life.
But they're not going to let him take a souvenir.
Right.
They're not going to let him.
No, I mean, I get that. I don't know why they would bring people in, though.
But
well, isn't that convenient that there's no way to prove it?
It is convenient. Huh?
They make sure you can't prove it.
The coolest thing.
We're talking about something that was 30 years ago, right?
You're right. But more of it's coming out as we speak. Like Paul told me to read this, which I can barely see shit because my eyes are... It says, this is from National Geographic. So Goldilocks worlds, which means they're neither too hot nor too cold. I guess that's why they call it the Goldilocks zone. Just right for life. Of the 1,780 confirmed planets beyond our solar system, as many as 16 are located in the star's habitable zones, where conditions are neither too hot nor too cold to support life. And that's just what we can see with our modern telescopes. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're talking about a universe that's ever expanding until it eventually collapses in on itself, which I don't even know how they come up with that. So those theories and stuff.
The simple or not simple, but mathematically, if space is infinite, okay, and with the millions and millions of planets that exist or are out there, it's been said also that mathematically speaking, even if it was just a random luck of the draw that humans evolved the way they did by this concoction of chemicals that mix together, mathematically it should exist on other planets exactly the same as we have it right now.
If we believe that that's how we came to being.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. So the premise is okay, this is how we came to be. So yeah, it would make sense mathematically.
I sometimes look at the Bible.
The theory of infinite is always relative because we are in a finite world.
Right, your brain can't comprehend
infinite.
And I can't either because I try sometimes. It doesn't work. But I think
But if it's physical, it can't possibly be infinite.
Right?
It has
well,
to
if
have
it's
some
ever expand, do you think it's ever expanding?
Well, it can expand, but it still has a boundary.
Well, of course, eventually every sun that exists is going to burn out.
Right?
So it'll be just nothing but black.
And even then, you say, what's the...
How do you know that?
In a hole.
How do you know that,
Even
though?
then it says, what's the point?
Because there's no new stars that are being
That's
created.
a good question.
But who says it's eventually going to burn out?
They all burn out.
How you know that?
Everybody's, yeah.
Because that's what
everybody
happens.
How you know? How
says it.
many?
All
How
the
many have you
physicists say
experienced?
it.
Oh my God.
It is true that all the physicists say eventually all the
They
stars...
say it,
all
but
Just
the-
they
like
didn't
our sun.
experience
Our
it.
sun will eventually burn out too.
Our stars, a lot of the stars that we see,
Are
no
already
longer
burned out.
exist.
Right.
Because-
They're just
because
so
think they're
far
special
away.
ones.
The speed of light has not yet reached
Right.
us to where we can see that.
That's
they're
why
burned
if you travel at the speed of light towards one that's already been burned out, you could technically travel in time because you're going to see it before we will.
out. Right. Wow. Which is the theory? Another theory of these which is another theory of these crafts being able to manipulate time, and which is a big thing of what the Nazis, they were big into UFOs and wanting to recapture lost artifacts like
Their Bell device they created.
yeah, right, yeah, like the Glocka they called it, the bell, yep.
That sounds
And they
like
think
the
that
man in the high castle. I mean,
There's a lot of
Watch a lot of TV, do you?
they also wanted the Ark of the Covenant. They wanted they wanted all these, some people say mythological
Indiana Jones.
things throughout history that,
I love him. Don't make fun of him.
they think a lot of that stuff that might be actual archaeological finds throughout history are in South America now. They say there's a pretty good evidence that a lot of Hitler's high command went to South America before the fall of Nazi Germany.
That's where they were hiding out.
You talking about that civilization of pure Germans that live?
Well, all of his high-ups that had all
That's where they were hiding out.
the gold.
Well,
and
yeah. Well,
shit.
they also
Ark
they
of
said
the
that there's some
Covenant,
kind
and they
of
had the
some kind of
Holy Grail.
civilization or a group of people that live pretty excluded in a specific area, and I forget
Oh yeah,
where.
and it's just like German.
And they are
still
all
speak
pure
German.
Germans.
Yeah.
And supposedly they all
wealthy.
came, but they also say that Hitler didn't actually die in the bunker, that he escaped
Well, it's been
to
proven
that
that
location.
the person that they said is Hitler is not Hitler. It's a woman.
Well, but they say that Hitler escaped to that location, and he
Right.
lived there until he died.
Right.
And that's why that civilization or that group of people still exists.
Where is Elvis?
He's definitely not still on a toilet somewhere.
No, he's not on the toilet anymore. He
But
has
see, I
left
like,
the
see, this
building.
is one of the reasons why I had, because you can bring me back down to, because I mean,
Sanity.
I really think that guy worked there, and I think he worked on that stuff.
He could have worked.
I
there.
don't understand how people that do work there, because there's quite a few people that work there,
Quite a few.
because they fly out of friggin'
They
Las
take
Vegas
the
or
Janet-
McCarran
they call them the
International.
Janet flights,
yeah, the
yep.
Janet Airlines. They have 737s and little
Twin engine, yeah.
Quite
puddle,
a few.
I mean, little
What?
private jets.
Would you talk about it? Bob Lazar has been.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
every year
for how
his
long
house
it's
gets raided.
for how long it's existed,
Well,
there has
what
to
he
be
says
older
is-
guys that have worked there that have since retired that will
a
say
few of them
something,
do, like the guy that worked on the hand thing, who
or
had
even
pictures of it.
relatives.
Man, you got to have some dudes just hanging around with some observation equipment saying, I'm going to sit down here and wait till I find me a UFO.
Well, that's the shitty part about it being in the 80s, is because they went, and it was really funny the way he described it, is when he thought that they were going to kill him.
I'm talking about Joe Blow.
No, I know, but they said, he took a bunch of his friends that didn't know each other, which was also pretty interesting. So if I worked there and I took my friends from high school, Brian, like we were talking about,
Yes.
I took you, who still know who they are, but then I took y'all, and y'all don't know my friends from high school.
That's right.
Yeah, but
And I said at Wednesday at 10 p.m., this thing's going to come up over here, it's going to shoot over there, and it's going to pretty much disappear into space. And it happened, and they videotaped it, and the video's no good because it's from the 80s. But they did this 2 or 3 times, and by the 3rd or 4th time, they were getting, they were out there hammering, drinking, listening to music. And they said, as one of these tests were going on, they saw a little green light fall to the ground just 20 feet away from them and roll down this little hill towards them. And they turned all their lights on, and there's 20 guys standing out there with night vision watching them. And the final time they went there, they took all these people and arrested most of them. And Bob Lazar, they took him and said, look, when we said you can't tell anybody, we meant you can't take your friends out here and get drunk and videotape what we're doing. But they, for some reason, he said they let him go. They did eventually let him go, and have been discrediting him ever since.
Well, one of the inconsistencies that I'm hearing as well is this guy is saying at this he is revealing a scheduled flight.
He had the flight schedule.
He had a flight schedule, which means they had control over the vehicle.
Yes.
Complete control.
Well, this is what they said. This is what he said, which you might find interesting, and it might mean nothing. He said that on one occasion, and only one occasion, because I guess he convinced these people, like, look, this isn't the way science works. It's a bunch of people working together, coming up with new ideas on what this might be, working with the other guys that might know something I don't, and that's how science works. Free influx of ideas and theories and thoughts. What he said they screwed up on, and why they still probably don't know how this works, is because they'll put me and you together in a room for 12 months, and we have to back engineer this. And if we can't do it, we can't do it. We can perform tests on it. We can probably figure out maybe how it works, but we're not going to be able to make that. And we don't even know what it's for. Like if we unplugged all of these things, right? And somebody said this is this conducts sound in a way that we have no idea how. And we unplugged it and everybody left the room. We're just going to re-engineer it. We would probably never engineer it with even the capabilities we have now. Unless one of us was a mechanical engineer, which I think you dabble in that in some sense of the word. But he referenced it to, if you, and I want to get it right because it was perfect the way he said it. He said, think of if you dropped a nuclear reactor off in the Victorian times, and you just put it in a room with the best scientists of the 1800s. They would eventually go in, they would see that it's producing power, they would take the plating off, and soon they'd all die because of the radiation. And then anybody that came in to check on them would also die because of the radiation. And they didn't even know radiation existed back then. So in a sense, they were just guinea pigs on, look, go in here, this is the propulsion system of this UFO. We wanted you to see if you can find out how it works. And he said they really didn't come up with anything special, and he thinks they put it away for 5 years, 10 years, and then when technology catches up, they bring it back out and they do more tests, and if they can't find out anything, they put it away for 10 years, and then they bring it back out.
That would convince anybody who believes that this could happen. That is a convincing argument. I think what happens, though, is that they didn't die touching this thing.
They didn't.
They're looking at something that's violating all of the laws that they have.
All of the laws of physics. He said it violated every law of physics that he could think of.
Every law.
That it created gravity.
But they were able to control it.
They were able to find the fuel source, which is this element that they called element 115, knew that it operated the craft. They were versed on how to get it to work.
That's a lot of information for someone who couldn't figure out what the heck they were looking at.
Well, not really. Like this. This is a good example. Like this. So this is off. There's a little switch on the side. There's a battery on the other side. In 6 months, we could probably figure out another better example. Another better example he gave was that you could park a Harley Davidson in the early 1900s, late 1800s, with the keys in the ignition and a tank full of gas. The people that are going to come out and look at it and start dicking around with it, they can't make a rubber tire. But eventually, they'll turn the key, they'll get it to start, and they'll become proficient at riding it.
If they have a key.
Right.
Now, just imagine if they didn't have a key.
Right.
Just imagine. And the thing that I'm looking at is, I'm still talking about controlling this device. The guy said he couldn't touch it.
He said the way it was positioned in the aircraft, it wasn't like a steering wheel. It was.
He said he couldn't touch the thing. He said.
Right. He said once it became active, it was like two like poles of a magnet. So
right.
you could go near it.
With respect to his hand.
Right. So the closer it would get, the harder it would get to get closer to it.
He actually said he couldn't touch it. It
Right.
repelled his hand.
Right.
Right.
And he said if you reduce the electrical load, that it would eventually turn off, and
Right.
then at the same time, he said not to say that it operates electronically. He said all of it was like magic. All of it
He's
didn't make any
explaining
sense.
it the best way he could.
And that none of the parts in this craft were plugged into anything. They just had to be in the vicinity of one another for it to work. And then I think of Bluetooth.
Mm-hmm.
I think of me at night putting my phone on top of the thing and it charges it.
Sure.
So I think the closer we get, in 200 years from now, we might understand what this element can do. But this element also might be a reoccurring element on another planet. Just because it's not here doesn't mean that it's not somewhere else.
No, I agree with that.
They might come down here and say, holy shit, these fucking people shoot fire out the back to go forward.
And we suck it in.
So
huh?
primitive.
And we have this element that, if we connect some kind of electrical charge to it, it'll engulf us in this envelope that we can somehow manipulate. And
Well, see, now I could look at it from the sense of, okay, Area 51 or S4 or wherever, okay, secretive military installations. Area 51, they used it to test so many secretive aircraft. I mean, the SR-71 existed 30 years before it was ever made public, Even other aircraft were developed based on it that came out before the SR-71 was brought to the public. The military, I could understand them bringing in a group of people or a person to try to look at something and work on it, and they're only allowed to work on one specific piece of it because they don't like people knowing everything about
Right.
everything.
But there is one person somewhere that does have all the pieces. It just has
It
to.
depends.
It has to. They
It's the
have
same
to.
thing in military operations. They only read in certain parts to certain people
But
that
there's
need
gotta
to
be
know those parts.
somebody that knows the majority of the story.
It could be a group of people that know, but they only read into to the people that need to know those parts. They don't let you. Nobody really knows everything. It's this person might know up to this point, and this person knows from that point to this point.
Right.
And somebody might brief with these two, but then this third person they don't brief with, so they don't know that third part. That kind of stuff happens all the time. Special operations does it constantly. But as far as having those different facilities, I mean, even like China Lake and Lemoore, California, and different places where they do these tests and have these facilities, you're not allowed to just go on the base and see what's going on, and I could see if it's supposed to be a secretive military testing facility, keeping it secret from the public. Of course, we as human beings in general, we're curious. We want to know. Well,
God, I want to know.
I pay for that shit. I want to know what the hell it is. So they try to get closer and closer and closer. So the military says, okay, well, we're just going to keep acquiring this property, so you can't get closer and closer and closer. So
Yeah,
I mean,
after Bob Lazar came back came out with all this, they bought all the surrounding area, Groom Lake. They pushed everything back like 600 miles. Now you can't get anywhere close to it. But
but the technology for the
God, it's a good story, huh, Doc?
It's interesting.
But see, all those people, there are people that can keep their damn mouth shut, though.
I know there are.
There's plenty.
Especially after Bob Lazar.
There's plenty of stuff that I signed and said I don't know after I left the military that I never learned in the first place. There's plenty of stuff like that.
But there's actual people that do know, and they still keep their damn mouth shut.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I've never talked about the shit that I know.
Bob Lazar said when he came out, he actually thinks that he helped security there. Because, I mean, they ruined this fucking guy's life. Everybody that he knew, his whole family got audited twice a year.
Well, that's like Catch Me If You Can.
Everybody got fired. Right, if you can't.
Who helped them develop all the security for checks and bank accounts and all that kind of stuff. IDs and everything else.
I'll stay not so smart.
Now, if you...
I'll just sell guns.
Let's just say, in 10 years from now, they come out and say...
you know what exists right now because they let you know.
Right. See, I don't know why they would let us know that, though.
Well, I mean, even if the Bob Lazar thing was true.
Crumbs. They're giving us crumbs.
He let out enough for them to say, you know what, we're going to trash this guy's reputation.
I mean, his birth certificate disappeared.
But nobody else.
All of his, everywhere he went to school.
Well, yeah, it's all part of discrediting him.
All of it disappeared.
He doesn't know shit.
I mean, they interviewed his mom, and she's like, his birth certificate, his birth certificate's gone, and there's no record of him being born at whatever hospital I had him at. I mean, so they definitely, somebody, whether it was just in an effort to discredit him, even if he didn't work there, somebody made a very good effort a successful effort to eliminate everything that he said he did. I mean, and he's obviously a physicist. He's very smart.
Not even any college transcripts, right? There was nothing.
There was nothing.
Yeah.
But they screwed up. See, they didn't get him out of. Somebody found an old phone book that said that he worked in the physics lab at Los Alamos National Laboratories. That he, there's been little things.
So some people are letting some stuff out.
Well, there's a newspaper that said that he was on the front page with his car that said, this lunatic Bob Lazar that works at this physics lab put a jet engine in this Honda, and he works at Los Alamos National Labs. But
I mean, it could be. I mean, if you want to go the realistic route, it could be. Why they would try to be reverse engineering it, I don't know, but it could be
because whoever gets it wins.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that it could be a form of a military aircraft that they recovered from another country. Because, I mean, back in the 80s, we stole all kinds of military aircraft from other countries and had to bring them here, reverse engineer them, and figure out the technology.
The point he was saying is once they have that, there's no reason to do anything else.
Oh, no, I know.
Once
I know what you're saying.
Once has that power, it's all over.
But we have plenty of stuff that I promise you don't even know about. I promise you.
Well, we don't need you to promise us. We already know that.
What about
I'm talking about that we've developed.
Do you think time travel, because physically rooted in physics, time travel is plausible, right?
I don't know how you do it.
I have no idea.
So, real quick. So technically, if you can move fast enough, and they've already did tests where they had two atomic clocks together. They were synchronized perfectly. They put one on an airplane, and they flew it around really fast, and they came back, and it was actually slower or faster because of, I think it was fast because you can only move forward, they said. Because and also time travel, they said it's only relative. It depends on the person. So,
right, like if I'm looking at this clock, it might show 9:19, but if you're looking at it, it might show 9:18. It's the way you're positioned in. I mean, that's a stupid way to simplified way of saying.
Well, but the same way I said, if you're traveling towards a star, doesn't matter how fast you're going, you're gonna see light from that star before people on Earth will.
Right.
The further you go, you're going to see things before we do. So technically, you're traveling in time towards that star. Technically.
Right.
Well, another
Now
thing.
coming back,
That's
different
another
story.
really strange thing about people that claim to be abducted by UFOs, and most of them I think are insane psychopaths. But there's a few throughout history that have taken many lie detector tests. There's been dozens of people that have witnessed it. They've all passed lie detector tests, and they claim to be gone for 3 hours, and they're gone for 6 or 7 days.
You sucking all this in? You getting all of it? You're the physicist, and we're all bullshit.
I think he's about to spit it back out.
That's what he told you.
You're just sitting there going, these guys are a bunch of fucking idiots.
What in the hell am I doing in this room? Why am I with these people?
That's why you need something that's not water.
I'm enjoying the conversation.
Wait till that water we gave you kicks
Yeah,
in.
that says Fiji, but
Well, that
I'm
the
Just saying.
relativity, they said, what is it, that you touch a hot pan and it could seem like an hour.
You put your hands on a hot
hands on a hot woman, it
An hour
seems
seems like a second.
second.
Yeah, time travel, huh? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I've had more than food.
So does any of it? Does any of it?
Marty!
Does any of it at least? None of it keeps you up, and none of it interests you at all.
I tell you, my interest has adjusted, and
You did that.
yeah, this stuff does not keep me up at all.
Doesn't do it.
No.
It doesn't keep me up at night, but it
That-
does
it-
make me think that I am missing a big part of what life is in relationship to whatever we're in. And I don't mean Earth. I mean whatever this thing is that we're sending messages through each other through these phones that I couldn't build, and that we're flying across countries to people that don't speak our own language, that we're shooting Teslas at Mars, that we're constantly killing and blowing each other up, that there's other planets out there that don't even know exist, the other galaxies that are constantly collapsing and forming and expanding. I think we're just as stupid as the ants on this planet to what's going on around them as what's actually happening. I don't know what happens after you die. I don't know what else is out there in the universe. I don't know.
Can you explain
No.
that how they say if you were able to travel at the speed of light and you traveled away for a certain period of time, and when you left, you had a baby, okay, like your wife had a baby, and when you came back, traveling at the speed of light back, the baby would be an adult. Have you ever heard that?
No, I have not.
I heard
so-
that from somewhere, but I
All
can't
right,
remember where it was.
So if you look at the TV here, so basically, so it's all relative. So the little ball, the pendulum going up and down, that signifies the time. You know, up, tick tock, tick tock. I'm gonna play it in a minute. So the one in the square, that's your perspective. Okay, so it's just going up and down like that. But the person on the bigger screen, you see how it's going. It's a longer rotation. It's going up and down, but it's a lot further path. It looks like it's longer. So that person,
Because you're looking at it dead on
Yeah.
instead of sideways.
well, no, it's all because it's all about perspective. So the person in the
Perspective.
thank you, sorry. So, like with you, the pendulum's going up and down, tick tock, tick. That's seconds or whatever going up and down. But as you're traveling and you're looking at a traveler, that tick tock. It's taking longer. That second is longer to go up and then down again. So
because it's traveling in 3 dimensions.
well, no, it's perspective. It's all about your how you're looking at it.
I
Like,
know.
the person.
camera in the square
No.
is looking at it sideways, and we're looking at it.
No, it has nothing to do with it. I'm talking about you're looking at someone traveling like the speed of light, and then that angle is so your perspective. Time is moving the normal time for you, but the person that's looking at you traveling, it looks like you're going faster or slower, whatever it is, because that same second's taking longer the way it arches.
You're talking about frame of references in terms of observing these motions.
Yeah. So basically, like you look at the same motion here of the ball, the light going up and down, but you see how one is going longer. It takes longer for the other one to go up and down.
Where are the observations being made?
Okay. So the small square is what you're seeing. It's
From where?
From you're holding the little ball. So here, let me back up here. So basically, this guy here is sitting here, and they're gonna move him back and forth, just like that. Okay. And so you're, so right there, that's you going up and down. So that's you're traveling normal time, but yet at an observer, someone else, that same time is a longer process. So that's why, like you can, like if you left Earth and traveled 5 years, at the speed of light, and then traveled back, your daughter would be older, but you'll be the same. But you'll be the same age, but about 10 years.
But the person in the perspective in the box is traveling with the ball.
No, that is the person. That's the same person.
The person in the box is looking at the ball as they're moving.
Yeah. So
and the box, the
Looking
ball
at it-
outside the box is for the people
Is
who
no
are
one's moving.
in the audience.
yes, yeah.
So what we're talking about are different frames of references. The person that's moving and the people who are observing it, they are looking at that from different frames of references. That's why they see it differently. The people who are moving are still.
Right.
So they're looking at it from what's called an inertial frame of reference.
Mm.
The person who is actually moving, that frame of reference is not stationary.
Right. So that's how you get to time travel. They're saying is because it all depends on what area you look at. Like if you're looking at it, they explain a lot better than I do.
But the same thing is happening regardless of how you're observing it.
Well, what they're saying is because the amount of time, with it going up and down, it's the up and down is your.
It's not affecting the time. It's
Another way
affecting the observation.
that Bob Lazar, not in the interview that I sent you, but that he described it, was that if you wanted to get from this end of the page to this end of the page, the only way we know how to do it currently is to go from this point, a straight line, to this point. What he was working on was something that bent time and gravity, that changed the focal plane of time as we knew it. So instead of going from here to here,
Creating a
in a
wormhole.
straight line, you could pick a point in space and time and just go through it that way. And you're still traveling the same distance.
So you'd have to bend light or bend space.
He says bending time bends light. It bends everything around it. It bends space and time and light.
So
And
you
he
could
said
travel
something
from
that
one
was
point to another
interesting that he
instantaneously.
couldn't understand. So this guy, it's very obvious that this guy is either a great liar and insane while being smart, or he had some experience with something that he couldn't explain. Because he said it on only one occasion, they said, y'all come out here and look at this thing operate. On just one occasion. And it was the same occasion that he was able to actually go in it and briefly look around. And again, he said, which I thought was interesting, because I would never even think to explain that there's no refrigerator, there's no bathroom, there's no artwork, there's no drinks, there's no computer in there, there's just seats. I guess what you would call the first floor was the reactor, and it had two things that looked like trash cans that were underneath it that gauged its position in space and time. And that was it. It was just a pot metal gray color, and there was nothing else. Mm-hmm. Which would also lead you to believe that, like, we're sending things to Mars. We're not sending us. We're sending a GoPro and a rover or something. In 100 years, we might send something that looks like us.
What do you mean look like us?
We might have. That's why these aliens have no sex organs. They're all about the same height. They don't have clothes, or if they do, they're all. People claim that they're all one uniform shape, and they're all wearing one uniform. Is that it's a semi-biological entity that they've made to record. They have hands, so they can, if they need them to pick something up, grab something, take somebody, do any kind of medical procedures on them. But it's not an actual, it's not a person like we would think, or an alien like we would think is alive. It's a symbiote, which, if you think 100 years from now, this isn't going to be in your pocket. It's going to be, now it's on your wrist. Soon it'll be in your head. And in 500 years from now, or 100,000 years from now, or 1,000,000 years from now, if we don't kill each other, we might be this, have similar features.
Yeah, that's what I call evolution.
We wouldn't need sex organs,
Hey,
because
Paul.
everything would be perfect in a test tube. There would be no autism, and it would be this phone and me and one thing, which I think would be a terrible existence personally, but that's one way they describe what these things might be. But man, I don't know. I'd love to know. But you're pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure that I don't believe that there are aliens. Yes.
Fair enough.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. I don't have any reason to go in that direction. Nothing.
Even though you've seen other things that would.
Yes, I don't believe that's alien. I just believe those are. That's the essence of who we are in our existence. I like I said before, I believe in. I believe in the supreme being. I believe in that. I believe we do not lose energy. I believe that. I believe that.
Well, that's another scientific term that's proven.
Yeah,
But a
I believe
supreme
it.
being not necessarily is. So how do you marry that with...
No, his belief is not proof.
Right, but everything so far has pretty much been proof. So how do you match that with a supreme being that is unprovable?
No, I don't try to prove it. I believe it based on faith alone.
And you think that supreme being would only make us?
That's not relevant to my definition of who that supreme being would be and why I exist. So for me to go into depth as to who else is in existence
Isn't your place.
No, it's not even relevant. I don't take the time to do it.
Another super strange thing about this guy is that he's been saying the same exact thing for like 25 years, which is very hard to do unless you're a sociopath. I mean,
I believe him.
He hasn't changed his story at all in 25 years.
And he's clearly not a threat.
He's not a threat, and he's clearly a very, very, very intelligent guy. One of the guys that was working on the little doc they did during COVID said, man, I'm ordering stuff off of Amazon, but I'm scared that I'm going to get COVID off these boxes. I'm going to buy one of these, I don't know, it's like a gun that scans light on this, the box that kills the virus or whatever. And Bob Lazar said, no, don't buy that. Just wait 48 hours. And 2 days later, Bob Lazar had sent him something that he built in his garage out of parts out of an old computer and some other parts he had laying around in a garage that did the same thing. And then he built a ray gun and sent it to him. So I mean, he's very. It's obvious that he's a very smart guy. Now, can smart people be psychos and liars? Absolutely. But it's a story that his
Serial killers.
I'd really like to know.
Yeah, it's really good at it too.
And it's definitely a possibility that he is completely insane and just happens to be a very smart, person. But
Well, there's a reason that he's not a threat. If this were actual, true stuff that he's sharing, then I would think he'd be a threat.
Well, maybe. I mean, what else could?
I would think he'd be a threat.
Maybe, but what if they don't know what to do with him?
I think they're just letting him go and let people think he's crazy.
I mean, most people think he's crazy.
Yeah,
I think he might be crazy, and I believe him.
He could be, but I do believe him.
But I mean, he has no proof. I don't think he's necessarily a threat to what they're trying to hide.
Well,
Just because it's been 30 years, he's been saying the same thing, and people are losing interest. But his story doesn't change, and he has a very interesting story, and he's very convincing.
and
So I
maybe we
wanted
do
to get
need
your-
500 years to figure out what that device can do and how it does it. Is that the
That's-
schematic?
That's the schematic of what he saw at
Oh.
Area 51.
Yeah, the
okay.
Tesla's Model Corporation actually got with him after he kind of came out of the limelight, and they built a model of what he described, and he said they did a pretty good job of doing it. It was pretty close. But he also said on one occasion, and only one
Was
occasion.
it functional?
No. It was a model you could buy, like you build a Corvette out of parts or Lego kit or whatever. It was just something that you could buy to build just for fun. He just did it. He tried to describe it and have them make, a something that you could buy for your kid or whatever, and they could put it together, and it was as close to what he said he could remember as but he only saw it. He said he only saw it once or twice. All the rest of the time was him just trying to work on this reactor. He said it was
Is that
probably
the thing that he was able to enter?
Yeah. Yeah, he said it. Everything else though was just the reactor. He said he thought it was probably like a small cyclotron that just like we have linear particle accelerators that just
You should have been a physicist.
Oh man, I'm just balls.
He
deep in
doesn't
this stuff.
sleep.
I
Because of this stuff.
I can see. Yeah, you should
Look
have
at
been
him.
a physicist. You have the desire.
But
you
he
have
thinks
the
it's
drive.
he thinks it's like a linear particle accelerator, but in a much smaller thing than they could devise.
It's not too late for you to be a physicist.
And element 115 is something
Don't you
that
leave
give
me
him
here
a-
by
a
myself.
you
leg up
need
on.
to work
No,
on
no,
being a
I'm
physicist.
not. I'm nowhere near as smart as
Oh, you are
or
smart.
any of the other guys that can make sense of all this stuff. But
No, you are smart.
so Ghost is
you have the drive.
a ghost is
You have the
a
drive.
good.
Ghost. Yeah, I'm calling it ghost.
UFOs no good.
I'm calling it ghost.
You believe in anything else? Sasquatch?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to shoot
Yeah.
that sucker one day.
Sasquatch
but
and
you don't
ghosts,
believe
but
in
no
aliens?
I wanted to shoot Sasquatch one day. Yeah, man, went looking for Sasquatch.
He was looking, Bo.
Oh, there's a bunch of us that go looking for them. We usually just find empty
He
beer.
made a lunch and rolled out.
We usually just find empty beer cans and I find Sasquatch and empty
Sasquatch, where
vodka
are
bottles.
you?
So back
Where
to
are
the ghost,
you?
though. I see them constantly.
She's
constantly.
And
Everywhere
he
I
saw
go.
something up here
Yeah,
that
so
he doesn't say much about.
I'm a truly ghost keeper. So
I see shadows and stuff.
I
see
hear
it.
them sometimes.
I've not heard them,
It's,
but
I've learned to live with it.
that movement in the periphery.
Oh, yeah.
You look over there and you say, "Oh no, I don't see it."
Yes, you do.
That's
but
like Frank.
something-
Frank
You
had
see it.
something that was like that up here.
You see it, babe.
Yeah.
I was in our records room, and I was working on a computer, setting up a computer, and I had the door open. And out the corner of my eye, as I'm working on the computer, I clearly, from my peripheral vision, I saw somebody step in and then step back out, like look in the door and then
Right.
step back out. And I could even remember I had khaki pants and a white shirt on.
Wow.
Okay. And I just said, somebody just came up and checked to see why the door was open, and they went back downstairs.
Right.
So then a couple minutes later, same exact thing happened. So I was like, huh. And after I was done, I went downstairs and I was like, and this girl who used to work here, her name was Riley, and I walked down there and I was like, Riley, who in the hell keeps going upstairs and checking on me? And she said, I've been sitting here the whole time. Nobody went upstairs. And then I started thinking, and I started remembering. I didn't hear, because back then we didn't have carpet on the floor; it was just wood.
Right.
I didn't hear footsteps on the wood. I didn't hear the gonging up coming up the stairs. I didn't hear the door close. Nothing.
Wow.
So I don't know what it was.
Wow.
The worst
But
thing
it
about
was
me
freaky.
is I've never seen
Wow.
any of that kind of stuff.
When I die, I'll come haunt you. It's
Well, you
okay.
can get one on eBay, $100.
God, $100. Nah, fuck that. I'll just build one out of plastic or something. If it was $20, you add the card.
Oh, my
It might
goodness.
fly.
But it doesn't have the internal part of it. It just has the
Yeah, it's just
it's
like a
just
Lego.
the outside of it. Well, it's like an aircraft model, a regular, tester's
Just
model.
a shell, huh?
If you look on, it's cool. If you look on the new version, since he's done it on Rogan's podcast, he bought one and built it, and it sits in the middle of his little studio.
Oh,
and It's
really?
got some lights on it. All right, I've held you long enough for our last part, especially with the smarter people, not so much the idiots. We give you some short questions. I want short answers.
Quick and short.
Yes.
Quick and
First thing
short.
to your mind.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm all out of alcohol. All right, we'll wrap it up. What's the biggest mistake that you've made in your life?
Not finishing a doctorate.
In what field?
Physics.
Well, you have a PhD.
No, I do not.
Who do you have a PhD in? It's not physics. It's something.
No, I don't
It was
have
on
one.
the thing that I read.
No, it said resigned.
Oh, why'd you do that?
I had coronary stents, and I was exhausted.
Yeah.
Didn't know why. Then started experiencing chest
Well, you
pains.
continue to teach now.
But going to school and teaching is pretty tough.
Yeah. Do you think you got tired with it?
I was tired physically, and then
Beat up.
just decided that I didn't feel like going back.
I haven't gotten a good answer out of this one yet. I've asked a few people. What's the last thing that you've changed your mind on that was major? Other than to come here and do this for an hour and a half.
I don't know. I have
Something big.
I wouldn't call it. Well, it might not be big to others. I have a Virgo, right? And they say Virgos are critical as shit.
Yes, we are.
Oh, go ahead, girl. And
Of ourselves.
yes, and I found myself criticizing someone who I really did not know, and I stopped and had a conversation, and I realized, how stupid can I possibly be?
Those conversations are an ass kicker, huh?
Conversations
That's
are
something
important.
I've learned.
Communication is important.
Is
It is.
I do my best to talk and to tell the truth, and it's very difficult. But I think it makes for long-term peace, even though it may make for short-term conflict.
Communication is
Truth.
vital.
Favorite Christmas movie?
I don't know.
Die
Christmas.
Hard. Come
We know
on.
you watch TV.
I do. Die Hard. That is a Christmas
Die Hard
movie,
is a
huh?
Christmas movie.
Yeah.
That's a debate.
That ain't no goddamn debate.
No,
Get out of
it's
here.
Christmas.
It sure is Christmas. Yeah. I don't know. What did I look at Christmas? Football.
No, there's one. There's the one that stands out in my head.
And that's Die Hard.
Die Hard and A Christmas Story. With that little bastard that gets the little BB gun, shoots his eye out.
Red Rider.
Man.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
What's the last book you read?
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Mm-hmm. Do you read it often?
No. No. I don't read books much.
I don't either. I
I
listen
read
to 'em.
magazines.
Me too.
I'll listen to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't read much, which I think is not good.
No, it's
I
not
read
good.
the shit out of some audiobooks.
Oh, dear God. Of course you do.
Yeah, I
right.
read too many magazines. Not enough books.
Yeah, I listen to audiobooks, which I don't think is good. I think reading
That's what you're
is
supposed to do.
better.
Good job.
If you listen to
Devin.
them while you're riding, that's real good.
Makes me feel important, like somebody else is reading it to me.
That's much better than
Right.
reading them.
You have a personal squire.
Read to me.
If you could fight any fictional character to the death, who would it be?
SpongeBob.
Beat the shit out of him.
My daughter's just starting to watch him,
Oh.
and he's a sack of shit. huh?
Oh man,
Patrick too.
They did not have those people when I was growing up. Thank God.
Well, we had Bugs Bunny, and
Oh, I love Bugs Bunny.
they beat the shit out of each other
Yeah.
constantly.
Roadrunner.
Yeah.
They blew each other up.
Yeah.
So as we talked about this, this is probably not going to be your answer, but if you could have any one major question answered, and you knew it would be the right answer, what question would it be? Any unknown theoretical debate. You could have one question answered truthfully that you don't know the answer to. What would it be?
Why are people so stupid?
I think I can answer it. I think it's our nature.
I think we're getting more. Well,
You would have that question over what happens after you die, or
yeah.
is
Maybe it's 'cause
is
they're
Bigfoot in
lazy.
Oregon?
Maybe, I mean, I don't know if I'd want to know if God is real, or if some of those questions. I don't know if I'd want to ask those kind
That's
of
a
questions
good point.
to even know, because then
No, I want to know why people
could
are
change your
stupid.
whole perspective
Well, I'll
on
tell
life.
you what. I will believe and take my consequence over someone who doesn't believe in their consequence, if he's real. That's all I'm going to say. Think about that.
It sounds
a good
like
answer.
A gambler to me. You know what the odds are.
There's nothing else that you think about constantly that you'd want to know?
I'm obsessed with stupid people.
Do you think that
Are,
the
are you
current...
saying that because
I'm
you feel
haunted
like
by
you're in
them.
a room of them right now?
That's because you're sitting across from me for the last hour and a half.
Nobody in this room is stupid.
Do you think that the current political climate, especially the way it's portrayed, is... I know it's not good for us. Do you think it's going to get better?
No, because our politicians spend more time taking care of themselves.
Then the people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's this thing where we vote for politicians, and the next thing you know, they're forming packs among themselves.
Yes.
I didn't vote for this cat out of California. I didn't vote for this cat in Kentucky. So why is he getting together with those people to figure out what's in my best interest? I need you to fight for me.
Ask me. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I don't think no, never get better. We don't promote it. We oh, no, I don't want to get started with this conversation.
The forefathers would be rolling around in their graves.
I don't want to get started with this one because I'm so disgusted with the political environment right now. I'm just disgusted.
I don't know if it has a track back to civility.
It does. We tolerate it. We have we use terms like I'm going to vote for the lesser of two evils, and
Why do you think that is? That the last time we had to vote for somebody, it was between a narcissistic game show host and somebody with Alzheimer's.
well, because those are the people that have money. Those are the people that other folks believe that they can control, and the people who have the...
You don't think people thought... I thought that after this last election, we would have an epiphany that something's not right.
People are stupid.
That there's 350 million people, and these are the two people that we have to choose from.
Well, that's always been my concern. I think people are just stupid. I don't think...
There's no Elon Musk's running for president. There's no...
Because they're not stupid.
Well, that's the
They're
problem.
not controllable.
That's a problem.
You're not running for president.
Have
No.
you ever looked at a president
I
when
would
they
never
started
run for president.
their
Yeah, and
But
roll,
you-
4
and
years
then
after,
4 years after,
they look
compare
like they
two
got hit by a
pictures?
truck.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd make a good president.
No, I
Look
would
like
not.
they age 50
You
years
would.
in 4
You already
4
don't
years.
sleep.
I'd be
You're
beating
good.
off everywhere, drinking. No, that ain't happening.
You wouldn't be drinking.
You would not believe the people coming through the
He
tunnels.
says I wouldn't be drinking. He's beating off everywhere though.
I know how hard this young man
Running into
worked.
Lincoln's bedroom.
Yeah.
I know how hard this young
But
man works.
even
I know
even
how hard you
people-
work.
Well, thank you. But even people that aren't political, I think, would make great. Like Jordan, do you know who Jordan Peterson is? I constantly
No,
hammer him.
but they're
home
not
on
going to
here,
run.
But, people like Rogan, who's got a podcast, very sensible. Ben Shapiro, who half the country hates because he's Republican. But I mean, there's a lot of smart people out there.
Who's
Sam Harris, who's not Republican, super smart guy.
Yeah,
You know, he's one of these intellectuals. But none of them want anything to do with politics because all it is 24/7 they just hammer you, lie about you. You know, half the country hates you.
well, they wouldn't.
Sometimes the whole
They
country
wouldn't
does.
get
It's
the
all a-
support.
It's
to,
all
to
a
run.
click.
They wouldn't get the support to run. They wouldn't be able to
That proves to me
garner.
that there's something broken.
There's definitely something
That's what
broken.
we're talking about. We're talking about the whole thing is broken. We're in a broken world. The
Are
world
we?
is
Because
broken.
Elon Musk says we're in a simulation.
Interesting.
He's also trying to get the hell off this planet.
We're simulating a broken world, and we're doing that very well.
But what version of the simulation did it finally break?
It has never been fixed.
We could be in 15 versions in by now.
Do
Do you think we'll get to a point, or
No.
humanity is?
no.
Have you ever thought that this is hell?
No. If this is hell, then we ain't got nothing to worry about. No, I don't feel like I'm being
I
punished
think
because
hell
I'm
is
alive.
it's geographical hell. So you can choose your heaven or hell, because hell is a very real place. You know, these tent cities in they're in New Orleans.
They're everywhere.
There's nothing but needles on the ground and people stealing from each other. And
But this
killing
is
each
my
other.
thing. I had one
That's
approach me
hell.
at a red light in my
That's-
car.
That's not
It's
hell.
it's a choice.
That's as
It's a
close to hell
choice.
as you can get, I think.
and that's
I think it's a
that's,
choice.
That's you
People that
saying
live
that.
there.
But you saying that. What about the people that live there?
I think they're well aware that they're in hell.
They might be glad to have a tent. They might be glad they're not
Maybe.
living in Africa where they can't get any food at all.
Well, there you go. There's another.
Well, I mean,
There's another.
just like you say, it's
oppressive
relative.
hell
Well,
where few have, a
but
lot
the other
and,
part about hell is, if we define hell as it has been defined biblically, nobody has access to it. We can go to Africa. We can help people. We can go to the tent cities. We can help people. It cannot possibly be hell. What we are taught about hell
not
is
most people.
we
'Cause
cannot go.
They would never get help. Because you couldn't go there to help them.
You can't go there to help them. Can't
not
be
most
hell.
people. Most people you can tell when they're in hell.
Can't be hell.
Like if you're walking with your 6-year-old daughter and there's a obviously intoxicated, high.
So you're saying hell takes
Heroin
place in
addict.
somebody's brain.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually can turn into a physical place. But if you're walking and somebody's approaching you on the same side of the street and they're obviously on drugs and talking to themselves and may have a needle in their hand and you're walking with your daughter, you're going to physically walk across the street and avoid that hell that's coming towards you.
That's a
But see,
very loose definition.
Looking at it like that, though, you could say your parents taking away your trust fund is hell. You could say being in a shitty marriage is hell. You could say, just relative to your
Well, I think
situation at the
everybody
time.
can create their own heaven or hell.
I agree. You're
I
responsible.
think it's
for
a
your
very
own
physical
happiness.
place.
Well, and then everybody has their own definition of hell. So when we
Right.
use the word, then we are not
That's all an
communicating.
opinion.
Yeah, we're not communicating on the same convention.
Right.
So you call it hell. I might call it something else.
7-Eleven.
Like I might call it retirement. I want to work. My God, they made
Yeah, I
me
don't know what I would
retire.
do all day either. I had COVID after 2 days of Pirates of the Caribbean.
It was hell.
There's only so much Johnny.
That's hell.
There's only so much Johnny Depp you can watch.
Can't get up to get the remote to change the channel. That's hell.
Ginger, anything else?
I'm good.
I love you, man. I miss
know,
seeing
he's
you.
cool.
Man, you know, this is
Here's my physics teacher.
this is
How
I'm
was
honored.
it with him in the class?
Oh, we were a fucking mess.
Oh,
How was he as a student?
We were a mess.
I don't remember specifically, but
He's been teaching for
I
like
had,
20 years.
I had a good experience at Rummel.
You
I
taught
really
Chelsea
did.
too at Holy Cross.
Yeah, I had a
Nice.
very good experience at Rummel. I still have connections from
It's
those
different.
experiences.
It's different now. I go over there every now and then.
I don't go over there, but I do talk to folks that I
It's
I
What the
taught.
hell you go over there for? What you doing over there?
Well, I mean, I haven't in a while, but I
Oh.
used to go to St. Martin's. That's where I went to middle school, and we'd go over there and see who's still over there, which is kind of scary. They let you walk in.
That is scary.
My goofy ass, I can walk right up and see who's in, see who's still teaching and who's the principal, and they'll talk to you.
Walks right in the
There's
teacher's
not many
lounge.
people left though at Rummel, you know.
I had stopped coming around.
I mean, I haven't been over there in
after
4 or 5
Gavin's
years.
death.
Yeah,
I just stopped coming around.
yeah, it was a
Mhm.
fucking disaster too.
Yeah. So I do need to get back out. Thank you for inviting me here. This is
Come
cool.
back and join us.
This is
That was
cool.
the university bringing you back into the
yeah.
I need a few
I don't know
people
if
on
it's
the
the light, but
schedule during the week.
back
Just
into the
saying.
darkness.
Do
Okay.
you have some availability?
Frank, anything else
Yeah.
I'm good.
for my physicist friend?
No. I'm
I
good.
cannot believe. Well, I can believe it.
I
'cause
love
you're
your Virgo.
scientist.
Man, we're
Go
special.
ahead. Yes, indeed.
Mhm. Yeah, I've known him for a long time, and then as soon as I got out of Rummel and in college and went over there, he popped back up. He was a friend of Gavin's and Mike's, and yeah, being that he taught physics, I figured I'd get him in here. I don't know anybody else that can answer the questions that I need to answer.
He needs
Like
it.
I did, right?
See, well, you know what? If you would have answered them, I don't think I would have been as happy as I am now. If you would have just said, "Yep, makes sense."
And
Aliens
you need
exist.
to stop calling me a physicist. That's dangerous.
You
That's
teach
dangerous.
No,
high
let
level-
him have his
You teach,
opinion of you.
Well, what do
It's
you call it? You
great.
teach high level physics?
I teach physics. Yes, I am so far from a physicist.
Wow.
Oh, light years away.
But
But you're on your way, though. But you're halfway there. You're closer than we are, okay?
Yeah, because I know F equals MA, right?
it was awesome having you on.
Thank you. It was awesome
Yeah, it was
being
fun.
here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I enjoyed this.
Every now and then I say this is like the smartest conversation I've had in a long time, and we've had a few of them lately, but this is definitely the most intelligent conversation I've had in at least a
I'm
while.
glad I was able to
got
listen to it.
He got to get a lot off his chest.
Yeah.
He had a lot building up.
Now I don't believe Bob Lazar worth a shit. Screw him. Fucking liar. All right, guys. 2 Shots In podcast. Thank you for listening. This was a good one. Thank you, John Charles. You have anything? Do you do anything on Instagram or anything? No.
I look at it every once in a while.
God, that's good. I don't even. I think the farther away you can get from all that shit is the better you are.
Somebody showed me how to keep track of people who are identifying the shitty ass streets in New Orleans.
Mm.
That happened yesterday. So
Yeah.
Well, you can contact us via our website, twoshotsinpodcast.com. Our email address, twoshotsinpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube channel,
Spotify.
Oh, we
Spotify,
need to
and
give
Amazon
away-
Music. We're working on Apple.
We need to give away
The
that
Ruger
last
Wrangler,
that gun. We were supposed to do it this time, and I totally fucking forgot about it.
Well, I've been having everybody subscribe, so. And I had him print me up some
I
stuff where they can.
promise we'll
it right on
do
their
it
phone.
in the next couple days. We'll find.
Yeah,
a
we're
way
just
to
doing
do it.
individual.
We're doing individual
Filming.
on camera random number generator. I promise. Because we gotta give.
I'll
away
be there in
another gun.
spirit. I'm going hunting.
Yeah, she's gonna go hunting for a couple.
I gotta
days.
kill something before I kill somebody.
But
You heard it. That's a
it's not
threat.
too late.
It wasn't
too late.
directed to anyone.
Did we get any?
I'm not saying you were.
We get 50 emails. We do another one of those 50 emails. We do a trigger giveaway. We just did a video on those, and we are over 300. So we're gonna do that Wrangler giveaway, and we'll do it soon. I promise. We should have done it this past week, and I forgot about it. But
So
we'll
hurry
do
up
it
and
soon.
subscribe so you can be included.
Yeah, keep subscribing and make sure that it's public so we can see that you subscribe.
Can't
and
see
you
your
are
name.
entered.
You don't exist.
Right, if you keep it secret, we can't enter you in the contest.
right.
All right, Doc Charles, good to see you.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Two Shots in Podcast. Bye-bye.
Not later.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, I
A little
like
bit?
it. Yeah, I'm
Frank
coming
King,
back.
you're like this.
Even if I'm a sit out. That was me.
So
Oh,
You can't see your face.
thank you, man.
You should listen to our, we do a few of them. We've had a few really good ones. We've had a few that were,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you got me. I'm
Nobody
hooked.
loves me.
I am hooked. And I'm coming back